delivering pizzas late at night, you spend hours separated from normal society, navigating long stretches of absolute darkness where nobody can hear or see you. For a driver, this vehicle and the glow of a GPS are their only tethers to the outside world. The car becomes a psychological shield against the night, a rolling metal sanctuary. This diagram shows what we can call the standard transaction zone. A driver pulls up, walks the illuminated path to the porch, hands over the food, and immediately retreats. It is a rigid set of rules designed specifically to minimize physical exposure to strangers. But the moment a driver has to break that routine, those defensive advantages disappear. They drop their status as a service worker performing a transaction and become completely isolated and exposed in the dark. Take a delivery driver who was sent to a small, unlit house on a quiet, dead-end street. At first, everything went according to the standard routine. They walked up the path and rang the bell, staying firmly inside the transaction zone. Nobody answered the door, but when the driver turned their head, they saw an elderly woman standing perfectly still behind the front window pane, staring out into the yard with a completely blank expression. The driver yelled out that the pizza was here, but she didn't react to the words. Instead, a deeply unnatural, chilling smile stretched across her face. Instinct took over, and the driver immediately backed away and retreated to the safety of their car. Safely inside, the driver shot a quick text to their boss, ready to drive off. But when they glanced over at the passenger window, the old woman was standing right there, pressing that exact same silent stare through the glass. She didn't attack. The terror of this encounter is realizing exactly how fragile that thin sheet of window glass really is when something incomprehensible is standing right on the other side. Now, look at this terrain. In the deep countryside, geographic isolation physically severs a driver from any immediate help. There are no bystanders, no streetlights, and law enforcement is miles away. A high school driver found themselves navigating 15 minutes of dark dirt roads in a 1999 Camry to find an old wooden lake house sitting alone in the forest. The property was totally unkept, with grass growing up to knee height. This map shows what happened. The driver knocked. A voice demanded the food be brought out of the safe zone, around back. Forcing the transaction into the backyard creates a psychological blind spot, severing the driver's escape routes and visibility from the main road. The driver actually considered walking back to their car, but knowing their boss would give them attitude over a canceled order, they reluctantly abandoned their own safety protocols and walked into the dark. Pushing through uncut grass and complete darkness strips away your spatial awareness. Every single step around that house physically severed the driver's connection to the safety of their vehicle. Approaching the dark patio, the driver noticed a table. Seated in a chair, facing completely away from them, was the motionless head of a person. The driver said, "Excuse me," but the figure didn't move an inch. Then, a totally different voice called out from behind the driver. A second man poked his head from around the corner, wearing a crazed smile, and ordered the driver to come over and look at something. Panic hit instantly. The driver turned and blindly sprinted around the opposite side of the house, somehow still gripping the pizza box, and threw themselves into their car to speed off. The physical boundary of the transaction zone had been severely bent, dragging the driver into a coordinated trap. But because there was physical distance between them and the men, the driver was able to run back to the false sanctuary of their car. To see how that sanctuary is completely shattered, we have to look at a dark, foggy shortcut through the Poconos. It's an environment that creates maximum sensory isolation for a lone driver. Driving down this empty stretch, a driver slammed on the brakes when a man in a black hoodie jumped directly into the road. The sickening thump against the front bumper confirmed a direct hit. The driver stepped out, panicking over the motionless body on the asphalt. Then a scream for help echoed from the deep woods to their left. It was a calculated sound, meant entirely to bypass the driver's self-preservation instincts. This flowchart maps the psychological error that followed. Normally, a threat keeps a driver inside their vehicle, but the scream triggered an empathy response, causing the driver to bypass their own safety protocols and voluntarily walk into the pitch-black woods to help. The predator weaponized human compassion, transforming the driver's natural instinct to assist someone in danger into a devastating vulnerability. Deep in the trees, the driver yelled out. The only response was the loud crunch of leaves. Peering through the fog, the driver made out a dark figure deliberately hiding behind a nearby tree, watching them. Realizing they were being hunted, the driver sprinted back to the road. The man they had just hit with their car was completely gone. Terrified, the driver jumped back behind the wheel and sped away to finish the delivery. The driver made it to the house and handed over the food, but as the customer paid, she looked confused, asking if the restaurant was letting drivers have partners now. The driver turned around to see a silent, hooded figure sitting perfectly still in the back seat of their car. The driver used the customer's phone to call the police. By the time they arrived, the figure had vanished into the night, leaving behind a blood-stained knife on the rear floorboards. The locked doors and the strict routines of the job were always just an illusion of safety. The body on the road and the scream in the woods were entirely misdirection, designed for one specific purpose: to get the driver to open their own door and invite the danger right into their sanctuary.